This video didn't go exactly as planned. I wanted to do a video on bare bulb flash, which it is, but I started experimenting with new ways of doing old lighting setups and creating custom flags, and ultimately, this is usually the process I go through when first creating a video to come up with what my final video is going to be. So you will not only learn about bare bulb flash, but also how my mind works when experimenting in the studio to find new ways of doing things. Because as you know, there are levels to this. So let's walk around through some lighting setups, and then I may just get on my soapbox and monologue at the end. Not sure about that part because I don't want to get canceled just yet. So I started by just putting the light 16 inches from the model's face. This gives us a very simple beauty shot. Since the light was 16 inches from her face and about 8 feet from the background falls off by about 4 to 5 stops. Although using a bare bulb, you would assume the light would just be bouncing all over the room. Well, it is. But due to the fact that light falls off, what's closer to it is simply going to be brighter. I was trying to keep from mentioning the inverse square law, but yes, this is the result of that. The lighting is nothing special, but don't worry, we will get to special, but it's also not that bad either. So I want you to do me a favor. As you watch this video, I want you to see how I progress from this simple beauty shot by simply changing the distance of the light, the height of the light, and different flagging techniques to get dramatically different images. Next, I have our model move 3 feet away, and you can see the background got significantly brighter, probably by an entire stop. And now we have this very obvious shadow behind her. Now, to get rid of the shadow being directly behind her, I raise the light up. It's now about 4 feet away. The background now even gets brighter because the light is further away. It's also closer to the ceiling, so the light bouncing off the ceiling is brighter. And now I could easily crop the shadow out by simply cropping to 3/4, but the shadow feels more natural when on the ground, giving us more depth to the images versus the boogeyman shadow behind her that we got before. Now, I want to get creative using a red gel, but I wasn't particularly fond of this shot. I feel like the wardrobe, the drab desaturated red background, and the small strip of red going across the model's face just didn't coalesce. Even when I went full body, it just wasn't there. But I did like the relationship between the red stockings and the red skin. I simply had her move back. I flagged the top of the light so as not much light was bouncing off the ceiling and washing out the background. And then we went with more editorial poses and everything pulled together. These images now become very editorial. Now her gelled red skin matches the red stockings, and with the right poses it works. But I know y'all love commenting, so let me hear it below. Did it work, or are you guys gonna roast me on this one? I'm definitely interested to find out. Now I want to try the red slash against her face one more time, so now I simply put a V flat behind her. This now gave me the saturation in the background I was looking for versus the uninspired desaturated red we had before. And if we did more dramatic makeup and hair, possibly had a different top, I think this would have really pulled together as a beauty shot. But again, I just kind of wanted to come back and try this lighting one more time, and therefore, instead of taking more time to push it further, I know this is another lighting setup I can have in the bank. Now, this isn't me pointing out mistakes. It's all subjective. This is me working out. Sometimes you can be struggling with lighting, and it's the creative that needs to change. You should also schedule studio time in which you're just going and working out ideas, not necessarily for your portfolio, in which there's low pressure and you can simply work out different lighting concepts you have in your head so that you can work through them more easily when the pressure is on. Now for the next shot, I reversed things a bit. I gelled the bare bulb from below red and put a cool steel green gel above it. I also flagged the light from above and used a black V-flat to reduce the bounce I was getting from the wall. I brought her close to the background to keep the shadow sharp and graphic, and again went with a more editorial set of poses. I didn't push this one too far, but I just wanted another variation, again with more editorial style lighting. And by editorial, I mean it's really just about pushing a visual concept, telling a story, documenting something, or illustrating versus selling a product. Next, I went to a very familiar place and positioned a light above our model about 8 to 9 feet away. Kept her relatively close to the background so the exposure on the model and the background is about even, and I get more of a high key image here than I got in the first two lighting setups, and it feels much more like sunlight. You will often see this setup when doing simple catalog or fashion shoots, and it's great for letting your subjects move around the set or photographing groups, because it is pretty even no matter where they stand. Just a quick tip, the further you can get the light back, the better for a lighting setup like this. Next, I brought in a roll of Roscoe E276 blackout. If you take anything away from this video, it's getting a roll of this. I was able to create a huge flag over 4 feet wide and about 10 feet tall that I can easily just roll right up. I use this to give this slash of shadow on the background, and if I want to make the shadow even darker, I created a custom flag to reduce the spill from the ceiling and the sides. I take a normal cupola flag and use cinefoil to flag the sides, reducing the spill, and this gives us darker shadows. You can see here the before and after. Now, before I get into all the grip tips for this video, I do want to say that I do extend the backgrounds in post to get them to fill the screen better in this video. I had a question about that and just wanted to answer it here. Now for all the gear that I used. I was using a Profoto B3 as my main light. For the boom, I'm using a Kupo Ultra Boom mounted on a rolling stand with a triple riser. The stand linked below has a max capacity of 88 pounds, so it's perfect for a boom with a light like this and 2 heavy counterweights. I like that the boom has handles that enable me to easily control the head position and using 2 pumpkin counterweights to keep the head balanced while also making sure to keep the stand weighted with 30 pounds of shot bags. For the red gel you saw earlier, I'm using a Kupo open face frame that allows me to mount this red gel and to easily position it above our model. In my first shots on the floor, you see the blue and yellow weighted markers, also from Kupo, that I use to mark a model's position as I am testing lights. There is also a safety cable attaching the D3 to the boom in order to make sure that it cannot hit the model, myself, or the floor. So the goal of this shoot was not only to show you how to use bare bulb flash, and maybe there's a part 2 to this video where I talk about my favorite bare bulb light setups, but it was really to walk you through the process of making subtle changes for big results. When I'm shooting, I like to think about all the levers I can pull to change the look of an image, whether it's how far the model is from the light and the background, and how high I place the light. For instance, the difference between this beauty shot, this fashion shot, and this high-key fashion shot was just changing the relationship of the model to the background and the light, and then mixing in different flagging techniques, whether it was using a gel or Roscoe E276 blackout gel to get different effects. Sometimes these simple changes can give you dramatic results. Please find a great model or muse to work with, go into the studio and just test out ideas. Feel your way through different lighting setups, find out what works and what doesn't, and always remember, practice when there isn't a lot of pressure so you can perform better when you're under it. By having some go-to lighting setups in your head and knowing exactly what levers to pull to make it work. It also allows you to self-evaluate and really see where you need to improve, whether it's through some technique or maybe it's simply adjusting the creative direction. My name is Ab Sesay, and as you know, there are levels to this.